Good evening. My name is Randy Adkins. I'm your host, and welcome to Sports Sound Off. Our guest this evening is lifelong Tampa resident and very well-known person in this community, Joe Pupello. Joe, thanks for having you here.
My pleasure, Randy. Thank you.
We just thanks for coming. I want to have a little conversation about you and your history with sports here. I'm sure there are people in the area that know all about your time here with Jesuit and that type of thing. And of course, you're connected with and known for your whole life with a business that people all are aware of here, the Tahitian Inn. And we're going to talk about that. Before we get there, the one thing I do want to do is I want to say that for those that are fans of hockey, good news, the Bolts are back, and the guys are 4-1. And
good start.
It's a great start.
Yeah.
It's great to see that. Anytime you can see that type of thing, it's great to see. I want to spend some time talking about your sports career, and I found out some things in researching you beforehand and talking to you beforehand I didn't know. I'm sure there are people that may not know. You're a big guy. You were an offensive lineman at Florida, and yet you started as a swimmer.
Yes.
How did that happen? I was a guy who's a swimmer, and you told me that you decided to go play football at Florida rather than to go to the Olympics. Now that's a big switch.
Yes, it was. It was an early start. I started at 6 years old, and actually a cousin of mine was a coach, and he saw me swimming at a family function. He said, you ought to come out and swim. So I started when I was 6, and his name was Pete Mattina, and swam for Greater Tampa Swim Association, which was a club that was around for a long time. And from there it went on. By 8 years old, I was breaking state records, and by 12, I had accomplished some better things than that. I had some national records. I had 50 national records when I was 12, and slated to go to the 72 Olympics, I guess, and it was an interesting story. I was in Gainesville, actually, in a meet. It was a Junior Olympics qualifier, and I went to see a football game, and I think Spurrier was playing, and actually the guy that, it was actually the guy that coached me was his center, Kim Helton, and I went and watched the team play, and I told my dad, I says, Dad, I want to play football for the Gators. So I was fortunate enough to work hard and to get there. And my swimming career made my mom, when I quit, she was upset about it, of course. But we had a great career, and it was a lot of fun. Made a lot of great friends, lifelong friends. And in fact, people today more remember me from playing swimming than playing football. So
right.
It was a.
Now you're a Jesuit guy.
Yes.
And that school, and especially at a certain time, had huge legacy in this town. I believe you told me you had a coach there who was a big influence on your life.
Absolutely. Bill Monahan was a one-of-a-kind guy. He's still here with us, and his legacy carries on through Plant High School. His son is the defensive line coach, Billy Monahan. Right. Coach Weiner was mentor of his. Also, Dominic Sayo, who is the coach for Berkeley, was right behind Coach Monahan. And that group there is still alive and well and putting the Monahan theory to work, I think,
Yeah. Now it's funny. Jesuit, it also produced some great products. I mean, and you were part of the all-century, Tampa Tribune Sports Hall of Fame team, for swimming and also for football, which that doesn't happen very often. There are guys that you would have played with that, went on to big things, guy who might have been there a little bit before you, been Lupinella,
Absolutely.
There's some guys that really done well. The legacy of Jesuit runs deep in this city.
Absolutely. Lou was famous for a 56-point basketball game. I played basketball also, so. And an interesting story, one day I went into the gym and I looked in the garbage can and I saw some Army boots that I kept for years. And when I pulled them out, I didn't realize what they were, but they were his boots that I guess he had had enough of, and inside it said Panella, and they were my size, 13, so I kept them and hunted in them for years. Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, you were in Gainesville in the 70s. How was that? I
mean, it was great. Gainesville, I went up there in 73, and Coach Doug Dickey had just come down from Tennessee and had some great assistants with him. Coach Jimmy Dunn was a guy that recruited me, and a gentleman named Jack Burns, both Tampa guys and great people and just terrific coaches. And Doug Dickey is a wonderful, wonderful leader, and we did some good things. Gators did well those years, and we were actually on the verge in 75 and 76 to be the first SEC champs.
Wow. Till
we lost to Georgia. But
wow.
They were short, just small processes in the game that we lost by. But we were ready. We had it. And we actually, just to go ahead a little bit, up until Tebow, I think, and maybe we still own the record, but the 75 team owns the the most yardage per rush for the history of the Gators.
Well, you can be proud of that as a lineman, because you make that
happen.
I was
there. Hey, we had some good running backs.
Oh, you had guys falling behind you.
Oh, yeah.
That's
they
great.
were, yeah.
Now, you left there and you went to Dallas, right?
I went to Dallas as a free agent, and I followed my mentor out there, Burton Lawless, who I got to see last week. He came in for the LSU game, and he's a three-time Super Bowl champ for Dallas. And I went out there, and I had a neck injury that they detected, and they asked me to think hard about playing football anymore. And I was fortunate that I didn't play anymore after that.
How disappointing was that?
It was very disappointing for a few years. All my guys another guy went out there with me, a teammate, Larry Brinson, and he won 2 Super Bowl rings. And so it was hard for me at first.
You sit there looking at those rings going, man, what could have been?
Well, it was tough at first, but I think things worked out in my life. I married my beautiful wife, and I've been married for 28 years. We've had 4 beautiful children. So
that's great. And we were talking a little bit beforehand. You got a chance to pass on the Florida legacy to your sons, two of which played in Gainesville. And
yes, I had 2 boys that played with Urban Meyer, and Kyle, my middle boy, signed with Georgia Tech with Chan Gailey first, and then transferred, and then Trent, my youngest boy, signed with the Tebow class, and he was up there for 2 years. Then he transferred down here and played for South Florida. And with Coach Levitt, which is a great guy, and his offensive line coach was his high school head coach. So he wanted to come home and play for him, and it worked out. And Trent may get a 6th year, we hope, and he's just been readmitted to school, and he's going to go out in spring.
All right, well, cool. For those that want to continue this conversation and call in with any questions or comments, our number in the studio here is 813-254-7820, or you can send me an email at sportsoundoff@aol.com. Either way, you'll be directly in the studio. If you've got a comment about your team and how they're doing, if you've got a comment about a question for Joe or myself, feel free to call in or to email in. As we continue this conversation on, we can talk about some of the stuff that's been happening here lately. The Rays had just a tremendous year.
Absolutely.
And as disappointing as it is to watch the Yankees and the Rangers, and for those that may not know, may have just be tuning in, the Yankees did win tonight, so it's 3-2 Rangers in that series. And they have to go back to Arlington, go back to and that's a tough place to play.
Tough place.
It's a tough place to play, but there's been a lot of excitement going on. I mean, the Rays really were tremendous to watch. I mean, there weren't as many people in the stands as maybe some of us would have liked, and we all understand what the economy is like.
Right.
But those guys really were doing well. Looks like you have a call coming in. Go ahead, caller. Thanks for calling. You're on Sports Sound Off. Go ahead, caller. You're on Sports. Go ahead, caller. You're on Sports Sound Off. Go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. I wanted to ask, Joe, did you have your grandfather or other relatives involved in professional sports, or were they swimmers as well? What I know you kind of touched base on that, but I was curious what kept you going in the area of sports.